Hello everyone and welcome to Book Days. The book of the day is the all-time classic, The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. I love this book for two reasons. One, because it's such a simple story, a caterpillar that turns into a butterfly. But it also has a whimsical flair. This caterpillar not only eats leaves and fruits, but it also eats a variety of other things, such as cherry pie, sausage, cheese, a pickle, a lollipop, and a piece of chocolate cake. To read this entire story, find it at your local library or bookstore today. And now I'm so excited to go to Houston, Texas with you to show off an amazing butterfly center in the heart of the city. Let's take a look. I am so excited to be here today at the Houston Museum of Natural Science, here with Lauren Davidson. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, no problem.
She is the manager and entomologist here at the Cockrell Butterfly Center. And what better place to bring the hungry caterpillar to life than this incredible facility? So I'm looking forward to learning all about butterflies, insects, and caterpillars from you today.
Oh, it'll be a lot of fun.
So just to start out, can you describe for our viewers what is an entomologist?
An entomologist is a big fancy word for basically bug scientists. So it's mostly insects, but also insect relatives as well can sometimes be thrown in there. So it's a person who goes to school specifically to learn just all about bugs.
Downstairs now to the caterpillar lab, and Lauren pulled an amazing plant with a huge caterpillar. I am going to let you, Lauren, tell us all about this awesome specimen.
Cool. So this is a green birdwing caterpillar. They come from New Guinea. The caterpillar, as you can see, is fairly large. This is not a full-grown caterpillar. It still has a couple of more molts to have. So a molt is when they shed their skin to grow. Wow. So here's one right here. And caterpillars, when butterflies are looking for places to lay their eggs, they're very specific about where they lay their eggs. Different butterflies have different plants that they lay their eggs on. Those are called host plants. So for these guys, this is a pipevine plant. So they only lay their eggs on pipevine plants. So unlike in the book where it's like eating and munching on all the different fruits, that's not how they really work. It's mostly leaves that they eat. There are some exceptions, and they're usually very specific. So this one, though, when it's a full-size caterpillar, it'll probably be about like that.
Wow.
And it turns into a beautiful butterfly. They're called birdwings because they're really big and have like wings like birds. But they're green and black and just really gorgeous.
Wow. Now that looks like an intimidating caterpillar. Are those spikes poisonous?
That's a good question. They are not, but there are some caterpillars that do have like either irritating spikes or poisonous spikes. In this case, and I don't know if we can get them to do it, buddy. Sometimes, so this is a swallowtail caterpillar, and swallowtail caterpillars have a special organ on the top of their head, and when you disturb them, sometimes it kind of inflates out and it looks like a snake tongue and it smells real bad. Wow. So it's a pretty cool little defense system, but I don't think this guy's gonna play ball with us. He's not that scared. It's probably a good thing.
I would not touch it if I came upon him.
So these colors are a warning coloration because while it's not poisonous to touch, like it doesn't have any spines that can prick you and it's not venomous in any way, they are poisonous to eat because this plant that they feed on is poisonous.
Oh, wow.
So it probably wouldn't do much. You'd probably get an upset stomach, but more than anything, it would taste really bad.
So we have come now upstairs to one of the best display cases, I don't even know, in the country. This is an incredible butterfly display. How many butterflies are in here, Lauren?
There's definitely at least probably a couple hundred.
Wow.
And they're all from different areas all over the world. So most of these are like tropical areas like Central and South America, Southeast Asia, Africa.
This is so beautiful. And you mentioned that this is the butterfly, the caterpillar we were just looking at. Look how gorgeous he emerged into. Wow.
So the female would look similar to this. So the females are bigger and they're a lot more drab in color than the male. So this one's the male, and this isn't quite the same species female, but it would look similar.
Wow. And in regards to our book, I know there's so many vast different colors here and so many vast different colors of the butterfly that emerges in the book. Which one, in your opinion, would resemble closest to it?
I would say, you know, it's almost like it's a combination of all the butterflies.
Yes.
But maybe like a blue morpho. If you look on the backside, which we could get a shot here in a minute, they have eye spots similar to the eye spots that are on the butterfly on the end, and there's also a lot of blue. So.
Now, is there any like particular scientific thing that makes them all the different colors that they are? The pigments?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things. So the blue on the morphos, that's actually not a pigment, it's actually a structural color. So it's actually how the light is refracting off of the scales, which are all the little powdery parts on the butterfly wings. So that's what gives them their color. But as far as like why all the different species have different colorations, a lot of it has to do with mating. A lot of it also can either be camouflage or warning coloration, or way up there, if we could get a shot of that owl butterfly, the one with the big eye spots.
Wow.
There's two trains of thought with that. One is that the eye spots are used to scare off predators because they look like a predator themselves.
An owl, yes.
But there's actually some research that's come out in the last few years that's actually showing that they might actually be targets for birds. So the birds go after that part of the wing, and you'd be surprised with how little wing a butterfly can have and still be able to fly. So the bird might go after that target, but it doesn't attack its body, so it's able to fly away and escape.
That is so interesting. And how many different butterfly species are here in the United States?
In the United States, well, it depends. Texas has about 300.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, but nowhere near, like some of the tropical areas have thousands. So.
Oh, wow.
We're cute with our 300 though.
Yes, no doubt. Texas, woo, 300.
Yeah.
And you mentioned over here is the Emerging Center.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at that.
So this is our emergence cabinets. This is where the butterflies emerge.
So cool.
You can kind of see all over here. This would be a good one too, because you can see all of these guys.
Wow.
So these are all long-winged butterflies. These are some of the longest-lived butterflies that we fly here at the Butterfly Center. Some of the species can live to be 9 or 10 months. The average lifespan of a butterfly is typically about 2 weeks as an adult.
That's so interesting. I'd like to just talk to you specifically about the cocoon versus the chrysalis.
Oh, yeah. So that, as you know, that's one of my pet peeves about the book. Butterflies do not have a cocoon. In fact, I brought some cocoons so we could see the difference.
Wow.
So this is a cocoon. So a cocoon is a silk structure around a pupa. So this is an empty pupal case inside from an atlas moth. So normally there wouldn't be these cuts here. We cut open into them just to make sure everybody's emerged okay and whatnot. But this is the cocoon, is the silk structure. This is another type of cocoon. There's not a pupa inside of it, but this is another type that's also been cut open. This is really interesting. This comes from an African species, and you might see all these little holes, and that's actually so they don't drown when it's raining, because they're typically still in their cocoon during rainy season. So that's kind of drainage holes for all of the water to go out. Now, in comparison, here are some chrysalis. So a chrysalis is an exposed pupa. So there's nothing around it. And whenever a caterpillar has its last molt, this is underneath. So they don't make it as in like they spin a cocoon like they would with these. It's just part of their body. And the word chrysalis actually comes from the Greek word chrysos, which is gold. So you'll notice some of these have little gold spots, or this one's almost completely gold in color. They also a lot of times have really good camouflage, like this green one here, so they can blend in with the leaves around them. They usually stay in the stage anywhere from a week to several months. It depends on the species. So this is a very fragile time for them because they're just literally dangling somewhere, so predators can easily nab them up. So they all have different ways of protecting themselves.
Wow. So that's interesting that you mentioned when they go into their chrysalises. Can you explain a little bit more about that? It's just part of their body?
Yeah, so underneath their skin, whenever they molt, is a fresh new set of skin. So when they're molting as caterpillars, it's just more caterpillar skin underneath. But that last molt, they have the chrysalis shell that's already there. It's very soft and malleable. They hang wherever they're going to hang, and then they just kind of wiggle around and scrunch that skin all the way up. And then that's where they hang for the rest of the time. They wait for that chrysalis to dry, and then inside all of that transformation begins, and then they emerge as butterflies.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so in the book, the caterpillar eats everything he can think of, and then makes his chrysalis.
Yeah.
And then emerges as a butterfly. How do they know particularly when to go into their chrysalis?
So it all has to do with mostly when they have completed all of their molt. So becoming, they have to eat to grow, and then once they start growing, they have to get a new exoskeleton by molting their old one, and that one, the new one's bigger, and they just keep growing and growing. Typically, most of them have what we call 5 instars, so that's the point in between the molts. So typically they have 5 instars. It depends on the species, but typically 5. And then that, whenever they've eaten and grown as much as they can, then that last molt is when they have the chrysalis phase.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because in the book, he just eats everything, and then boop, they goes in.
Yeah, so they don't talk about him molting. He has to molt in between all of that eating, which is also a very dangerous process because they can't move a whole lot after they've molted because their exoskeleton's still wet, so they can't really do a whole lot. It's a whole dangerous process, actually, being a caterpillar.
Aww. That's so precious. This is incredible how you have them all here, and you can actually see them emerging.
Yeah.
Do you, how do you find these?
So actually, all of our chrysalis come from butterfly farms all around the world.
Wow.
Yeah, so we do raise some here in a separate facility in the Butterfly Center, but for the most part, we receive all of these chrysalis and we hang them up, as you see here, and then as they emerge, we typically release 2 to 3 times a day.
Wow.
So we have to wait for their wings to dry, and then we take them out and release them.
That is so cool. All these friends are ready to head out to the rainforest.
And if you notice too, here on the glass, you might see some streaks. I bet you could probably maybe guess what that is. Maybe. It's poop. So when they're in their chrysalis, they're still producing waste. They also have all of the dissolved parts of the caterpillar. So when they emerge, the first thing they do is they poop. We call it meconium. So just like with a human baby, it's kind of like their first poop.
Oh my word, is this one just emerging right here?
That one probably just emerged, yeah. So when do you see how like crumpled its wings are? So when they're kind of squished up in that chrysalis, their wings don't fit in there when they're flat and dry, so their wings are still very wet when they first emerge, and then they pump fluid from their body to expand their wings out, and then they sit there and dry for a little while. Depends on the species, but typically a couple of hours.
Wow, that is so cool. We got to see one just emerge. Oh look, is that another one?
Yeah, that one probably just popped out too.
Wow. So what does it take for them to emerge? Is it a lot of work?
It's probably the least amount of work of all of it. Yeah. They just kind of push their chrysalis open, and usually they're out within a couple of minutes.
Oh, wow. And do a lot of these butterflies get along together?
Yeah, so I mean, there obviously could be territorial things, but that's typically like within the same species, like males fighting over females for mating. But a butterfly fight is probably just the most magical thing because it's not as brutal as some other insects. So it's really just them flying around each other. All right, so you're going to release these butterflies into the rainforest. These all just emerged sometime last night. They're all dry. Whoa. These are all owl butterflies, so the ones that we saw with the big eye spots.
Yes.
So this is what we're going to do. We're going to open it, and then you could just gently shake it over the sides.
Okay, here we go. Do I have to shake
maybe,
harder?
Maybe harder. Okay. Sometimes they're stubborn.
There they go.
Bye.
Aw, fantastic. Thank you so much for letting me do that.
You're so welcome. So the owl butterflies, they're one of the species of butterflies that we have in here that don't feed on nectar. So a lot of people, when they think of butterflies, they just think of them feeding on flowers.
Interesting.
Those guys actually feed on rotting fruit. So whenever you walk through the facility, you'll probably notice that we have a lot of different types of fruit feeders. And then there's also like this brown goo stuff. We call that banana brew. It's rotten bananas, brown sugar, and a little bit of beer to help it ferment faster.
Oh, interesting. And you mentioned fruit. Now, as far as the fruit in the book, apples, oranges, how realistic is that?
That's not realistic for a caterpillar. You know, there are some exceptions. There are some species of moths that might feed on fruit. But in general, butterflies mostly feed on some sort of leaf of some variety. So they feed on the actual plant, not the fruit.
And I know the caterpillar in the book has a sweet tooth.
Yes.
Now, cake and lollipops, even some savory pickles, cheese. Is that just off a caterpillar's diet?
Yeah, they're not going to eat that. I mean, I say that. They can't survive on that at least. They might try it. I doubt it, but they might try it, but they're not going to be able to live off of it.
I love how free this rainforest is.
Yeah.
Shall we just take a quick peek?
Yeah, absolutely. Take a walk through. It's on some nice overripe pineapple.
They should have put pineapple in the book.
They should have.
So they like warmer, like more humid environments. Wow.
Yeah, so there you go.
Goodness, this is so gorgeous.
Yeah, we like to joke that butterflies are solar powered. So when it's really sunny, that's really when they're the most active.
And there's so many different types. I can just see this black and white one. What is this one called?
That is called a rice paper butterfly. They come from Southeast Asia.
And then this one down here.
That is a blue morpho. So on the outside of its wings, it looks kind of drab, but if it opens its wings, you'll see that really brilliant blue on the insides.
Wow.
So typically we have about 1,500 to 2,000 butterflies flying at any time. 60-ish species, all, like I said earlier, from tropical locations, Central and South America, Southeast Asia, Africa. Our native butterflies, so think like a monarch or Gulf fritillary, they don't really like this environment as much. We have too many trees in here. They kind of like more open areas.
Yes. And what is really the lifespan of a typical butterfly?
About 2 weeks is average. It depends on the species though.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. The whole point of becoming an adult is to mate and lay eggs. They don't really care for their young, or at least most species don't. So at that point, their purpose is kind of over. So they're kind of, just kind of done after that. But in all honesty, most insects don't live very long. I mean, there are a lot of exceptions, but generally, a week or two is pretty much max.
So most of their life, would it be correct to say that most of their life is as a caterpillar?
Yeah.
So by the time they become butterflies, they're kind of toward the end of their life. Wow. Okay. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Is it always like this is the climax of a caterpillar's life emerging into a beautiful butterfly, and then you don't think anything after that? Wow, Lauren, this has been such an awesome experience here at the Cockrell Butterfly Center. Thank you so much for all your time, and it was such a pleasure getting to learn from an entomologist who has studied all about insects, how caterpillars really come to life, and the truths in the Hungry Caterpillar book. Yeah. Well, it has been a joy to be here. Thank you so much for your time.
You're so welcome. Thanks for coming out.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for joining us for this awesome episode of The Very Hungry Caterpillar at the Cockrell Butterfly Center. Now be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming adventures. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Want more book days? Well, the adventure has only begun. Check out these episodes and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming adventures.